Hello and welcome to the Tamp Podcast. This is a podcast series where I will be speaking to an array of customers and guests of Tamp Coffee, sitting here discussing all sorts of topics from music and film to business to physical and mental health, sports, and much, much more. So guys, stay tuned and please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment.
The master plan of my life was to get a degree in business management in Scotland and then go and work in the oil rigs up in Aberdeen. I remember traveling downtown to London to meet a friend, and there's a shop called Wheatards that was traditionally a tea shop, and they had this one room that was big jars of roasted coffee. And I remember like opening the jars and sticking my head in and smelling the beans. I was like, oh my god, they smell amazing. I realized that this is what I want to do in my life. I was obsessed. I was thinking about coffee. I was drinking coffee. I was going to bed and I was thinking about it. I was so obsessed. So I started going into forums. There was Coffee Geek, I remember.
You were teaching yourself how to do sensory exercises.
Yes, at the time.
So this is at a time when there was no training out there.
So you have these little vials. I remember every day I would take it with me to work. And on the bus back, I would be at the very back of the bus with a hoodie, big beard.
People would have thought you're sniffing.
I think so.
What's the most overrated trend in coffee right now?
The most overrated trend. This is meant to be quick fire.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tamp Podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us. Today's guest is a coffee specialist. He is a Q grader. He is an AST trainer. He is an international competition judge. He is the founder of CoffeeReps, co-founder of Formative Coffee Roastery, and a very dear friend. Importantly, for any of our customers who are watching this, he is also the man behind our entire coffee offering here at Tamp, both sourcing and roasting. You could say he's the man behind the magic. I think it's only fair to say that Nicolas has tasted more coffees than most of us ever will. Nicolas Pastellopoulos, hello.
Hey, Dorian. Thank you for having me, man.
Thank you for coming. How are you?
Great, and great pleasure being here.
Okay, so this podcast, I mean, I think any listeners will have found out by now, this is going to be quite a geeky coffee episode. So if you're into coffee, it's great. If you're not, it might be an eye opener or it might put you to sleep. We'll find out. But before we get into coffee, can you tell me a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and who was Nicolas before coffee?
That's a great question, actually. So I'm originally from Cyprus. So I grew up in Nicosia, Cyprus. I'm one of two kids, me and my brother. Throughout my life, when I was younger, from 16, 17, I got involved in hospitality one way or another. Then in Cyprus, we had to we still have like a conscription service. So for 2 years, I was in the army, and then after that, I went to study business management in Scotland in a place called Dundee. That's when I kind of fell in love with coffee on my first year. And yeah, going to study there, my the master plan of my life was to get a degree in business management in Scotland and then go and work in the oil rigs up in Aberdeen. Because back then, I knew that you could get a really decent salary for 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. Then I was thinking, as a young man, great, I'll go in for 3 weeks. I'll work really hard. I'll get sustenance on the rigs, and then I'll have all the money to then go and save them and spend some money when I'm off, but also save the money and then start something on my own. I was quite naive back then, but then because life, it came out way different in the end. But yeah, that was the plan.
Well, it's not too different because often coffee is referred to as black gold, and so is oil. One fuels humans, and the other one fuels society.
Yeah, in a way, that is quite correct. As I'm sure you know, but perhaps not everybody listening to this podcast know, coffee was essentially used in the Industrial Revolution to fuel, the working class. It was basically a relatively new substance at the time that essentially was, I mean, coffee's at its core is back then it was basically a mild stimulant that people realized that, hey, if I drink this substance, this coffee, I don't feel pain so much. I can stand for longer hours, and I can be more efficient and effective. So yeah, it was used historically for basically um, pushing forward the industrial revolution.
So now I am going to ask you what you said earlier. How did you get into coffee?
I remember traveling down to London to meet a friend, and I remember we went to, I believe it was Covent Garden, and there's a shop called Wheatarts that it was traditionally a tea shop. But I remember us going into that shop, and they had this one room that was big jars of roasted coffee. And I remember like opening the jars and sticking my head in and smelling the beans. I was like, oh my God, they smell amazing. So I remember buying some of those beans because coincidentally, a week before, somebody gave me a present, and the present I was given was a 100-pound DeLonghi espresso machine, a yellow one, I remember, at the 13 bars it advertised that it would pull shots at. With for those of you that might be into coffee, with those portafilters that essentially they're pressurized.
Yeah.
So the next day I go to Wheatarts, and then in my mind I say, okay, I'll get this coffee, I'll go back to Scotland, and I will create the same equally tasty shots. Which obviously this didn't happen for many reasons, because it's not as easy as we kind of think to create those incredible experiences with coffee. It's not difficult if you know what you're doing, but I didn't know what I was doing. I do have a bit of obsessive personality when it comes to things I like, so I started asking myself, okay, why can I not do this? And I couldn't accept that there was no answer. So I started going into forums. There was Coffee Geek, I remember, and Home Barista thing.
Yeah.
It was the one, and I spent like unhealthy amounts of hours of like trying to understand what was going on. My first year of uni was more like discovering, analyzing, trying to kind of experiment with coffee and understand all these little nuances. And I was so ignorant in a way, but I was really passionate to understand more for some reason. I guess partially because culturally from Cyprus, coffee is a big part of our culture. So for me, it was something that I felt that it was something close to home
It was
in a
part of your
way.
identity.
Yeah, it was. And funny enough, back in Cyprus, we're big like instant coffee drinker. We had a big instant coffee culture. So my mom, I remember since I was 13, 14, I would drink Nescafe iced with no sugar and no milk, which I don't know how I used to be able to do that because it's quite harsh. After my second year, I realized that this is what I want to do in my life. I was obsessed. I was thinking about coffee. I was drinking coffee. I was going to bed and I was thinking about it. I was so obsessed. So I did something that my parents did not approve at the time. Um, and I actually didn't tell them. I told them later. I took a year out. So I sent a message to uni and said, hey, I'll take a year out, basically a gap year. And that year I stayed in Dundee. I stayed in the same house, but I was studying about coffee myself. I had this huge pile of printed papers with highlighters that I would highlight all of my research for coffee. Uh, and that gave me this, and again, this is something that I realized later in life. It gave me this super strong foundation from a theoretical standpoint. I was this guy who I had never touched an espresso machine, but I could tell you how to break it down. I could tell you how to put it back together. I could tell you all the theories. I knew at that point that coffee is going to be what I will do one way or another. I didn't know what path I wanted to choose. I wasn't sure, but I knew that there would be something with coffee. That would be my life. So I decided that I will not do 4 years. I will do 3. So I will finish with a business, in particular with non-owners, because I was thinking, okay, this is a waste of time here. Like I know what I'm going to want to do. I need to start actively like pursuing. So I will save all of my money, get coffee beans, do my sensory exercises whenever I could, and then slowly, I was actually
Hang on, let me stop you there. You were teaching yourself how to do sensory exercises.
yes, at the time.
So this is at a time when there was no training out there.
No, there was no YouTube. There's no James
Yeah.
Hoffman. There was no. In fact, there was no. It was very difficult to find educational materials.
Yeah.
Like blogs, would be the one, and yeah, like actually, papers was the other for me. I had these A4 papers with all these articles, and I will put them into categories that I created in my head myself. And later I realized that these were the curriculum and these categories that I am teaching today to students, which was okay. What is coffee? Coffee is a lot of things. Coffee has to do with being a barista and brewing. So barista is one, and I'll have one A4 paper on the table on the ground, which is barista, and I'll put all the scientific research on that side. What else? Oh, brewing. Brewing is different than being a barista. This is espresso. This is everything else. Okay, brewing is everything else. What else? Okay, roasting. Roasting is another category. Green coffee seems to be another category. Tasting, sensory is another category. And then I would put all of the information I had, and basically my living room was this basically library on the ground, a 2D library with all the papers. So I started with pan roasting, right, in my kitchen, like doing roasting in a pan. I moved to an oven, and then I was like, okay, let's get a decent machine. And you might know it. It's called a Genie.
Genie, no, I don't know that one. No.
So for the benefit of all of us and the viewers, basically a Genie, what it is this little machine. You can do, I think, up to 200 grams of coffee at the time. It has this tube in the middle that you can remove from the machine.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah, you put the coffee in, and then it moves. For those of us, you that might have a video to watch us,
Yeah.
it moves in a kind of one irregular way. So the bits go up and down,
like a
and left
figure
and
of
right.
eight kind of movement.
Yes, figure of eight. Yeah. And so I got that. I managed to find some green coffee, and I started like practicing with green coffee. So this machine, you could change the temperature, and that was it pretty much.
And it was gas, right? Gas machine.
Electric.
It was electric back then.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
But I wanted to learn. So I thought, okay, to learn, I need to be able to, adjust things myself.
Yeah.
The things I didn't know. And if any of you wants to actually get into this, like this thing had no cooling functions. So coffee, after we roast it, ideally what we want to do is we want to cool it down within 4 minutes. The reason why we want to cool it within 4 minutes is because it has been shown that between 4 and 5 minutes, you lose about 30 to 50% of sweetness. And then if it takes longer, you lose a lot of the sweetness. This little guy had no vent. Like it had a little vent that, hot air came out. So our living room was full of smoke. So what we did is we bought, those vents that you have in kebab places, like the aluminum foils that are a little bit.
Yeah.
So we managed to find a second hand of those, like from somewhere for like £5. And then I had a series of metallic buckets. And we found a sign, a street sign, a metallic street sign. So what we'll do is the coffee will drop at 200 degrees. I'll chuck in the first metallic bucket, so we'll start absorbing the energy. And Andreas will start manically fanning it for the first minute. And then we'll move it to another bucket. We'll switch because it was so tiring to fan for a minute. I will fan urgently, like this, frantically for another minute. And we'll do that and we'll take turns. We'll have that vent going outside of our window. We're on ground floor. And people will pass by and they will think we're crazy.
But the smell must have been great.
Dorian, the smell of grinding coffee is great. The smell of roasting is a bit like you're having damp hay and you're like, I wanted to get trained by an AST trainer, an authorized specialty trainer by the Specialty Coffee Association. So basically, it's called, in short, the SCA. And
let me just give a segue to any listeners. The SCA is the Specialty Coffee Association, which awards the training, the AST trainers, right?
Correct.
So an AST trainer is a qualified SCA trainer, basically.
Correct, yeah. So the SCA has a sensory category, which is 3 different courses: foundation level, intermediate, and professional. A foundation level is a day's worth of training, 7 hours of teachable material. An intermediate is 14 hours, and the professional is 3 days, usually of 21 hours of material. And the different categories that you have, there's many, but I'll mention the basic ones. Is you have barista, again, 3 levels. You have brewing. You have sensory training, which is essentially just focusing on becoming a better taster. You have green coffee and roasting.
Essentially, let me just interrupt, but these are the same categories that you had unknowingly divided in your own documents that you had got from libraries, separated into the same categories that the SCA happened to have.
Yeah. And basically, all those curriculums, they are based on books. But I had read all the scientific research, because generally anything that was from the early 1930s to that date, I have read it. So I knew that I knew the theory quite well. Obviously, theory without experience is you don't have coherence there, so you do need the experience. And this is something that I encourage now students to do the same. Every trainer will teach you the material, right? The question is there anything extra that you can learn? Go in with questions. I will used to go in prepare with questions. So long story short, I managed to find a trainer that she was willing to train me. She was in St. Andrews. So this is my 4th year in Scotland, but my 3rd uni year. At that time, I'm working at the coffee shops. And I remember there was a guy, he used to be my manager, but because I went to the army in Cyprus, my manager was the same age as me. His name was Chris Gurley. And if he ever listens to this podcast, I have a lot of appreciation
But he
for
was your
him.
manager where?
In Dusa, in Dundee.
Okay.
And I went to Chris one day. I remember telling him, "Hey, Chris, I was just a barista." And I said to him, Chris, I just want to talk to you because I feel that our quality of coffee is not great and we can do better. He said, okay, Nick, what do you think we should do? I said to him, look, I don't want a pay raise. I don't want anything to change from an operational standpoint, so you don't have to pay me more. But what I would like to do is to have the ability to come earlier at my own time without you paying me anymore. And I would like to come an hour earlier every day and dial in both of the two machines. Because at the time, we used to have a quite prominent Scottish kind of commercial roaster who installed the machine, he put the grinders, and he said to the managers there, this is the grind size that you should use and never change it. Why is this important? Well, it's important for a few things because, as we both know, in coffee, you want your coffee particles. You want the water to go through at the water goes through at the standard pressure, right, at 9 bars typically, and you want it to go through at a specific time because you want the coffee and the water to come together and have enough time for the water to extract the coffee and become coffee in your cup and have strength. Out of curiosity, what times do you use in the shop?
So our recipe right now is essentially 1 to 1.5. We're 18 grams in the basket, and we're about 18 to 20 milliliters out, extracting in under 25. So because we're doing a ristretto, to be honest, even 21, 20, that's actually fine.
Yeah,
So it will vary between 21 and 25, depending on the humidity in the room.
it would be fair to say that this for the typical, like where we're in London right now, it's on the faster side as well.
But it's because we're pulling ristrettos.
Yeah. It's all good. The reason I'm saying this because I used to pull 3-second shots.
No, but the thing is, what you said about the grinder reminds me. When I was first working in pubs and bars, we were told never touch the grind size.
Yeah.
We were scared.
Ooh.
We were made to think like something awful was going to happen if you did it.
Yeah. Anyway, 3-second shots, lots of syrups. That was the methodology. So I said to Chris, look, Chris, I will do that for us. I just really want to do it. And I promise you, come with me. I went to a shop. I pulled a few shots at a more reasonable time. And I was aware at that point that, okay, I cannot do a 35 or 30-second shot or a 25. It has to be like 15, 16, 17, because it will be such a big jump. And yeah, so I started going earlier, dialing in the coffees every day. So I found this trainer in St. Andrews, and I said to her, hey, I really want to do intermediate because I don't want to do the foundation. And she says, fine. But the only problem is that my shop is 7 days a week. Like we work here 7 days a week. Would you be willing, she said, instead of doing that 2 days, which is 14 hours in one go, would you be willing to break it down into like 2-3 hour sessions across two weeks? I said, yeah, no problem. And it's funny, there's a lot of things I knew, but there was a lot of things I didn't know. Especially we had they had the La Marzocco Classic at the moment. So it was a nice machine for me to work.
Great machine.
Great machines, yeah. Workhorses.
Yeah, it's still going.
I learned there quite a bit. And then at the last day before I left, she said to me, good, congratulations, you passed. And she offered me a job. And she said to me, how would you feel about coming and working here? They used to have great coffee from Glen Lyon up in Aberfeld in Scotland, which it was and still is a roastery that is very dear to my heart. And also, these guys, they worked they work with people with disabilities. So we were part of a Scottish government program where people with disabilities will come and they will work, and we'll try and help them to get life skills. So people that we have there will be people with, for example, generic like learning disorders, like learning very slow, or people that they will be in the autistic spectrum, and they will work the shift normally as normal members of staff. As in, you need 5 people to run the shop. You'll have 5 people, but 2 or 3 of them they will need a bit of extra help. And I remember at the till we had this nice little sign saying, "Hey, we work with people with disabilities. Please be kind." Da 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 da. In those environments, you have to be very kind of jolly, and if you're the person who's running the shift, you really have to be like you have to pick everybody up. So I would be a little bit more jolly, a little bit more fun, a little bit more silly. And about 6 months in, I realized that the people on the team never knew who the person was with who might have challenges. I think a lot of the time, probably they thought it was me.
What was the name of that shop?
So that shop was called Zest.
And is it still open?
I believe so. Yeah. It's a place that I hope if you're in St. Andrews, go and visit.
Yeah.
They do a good job. And I learned a lot because I remember the owner there, she telling me, I remember one day I was having a really hard day. I couldn't manage everyone. And I remember her telling me, Nick, if you can train here, and if you can teach people here, and if you can manage people here, you can make it anywhere. And she was right because, I learned so much from of an educational point of how to motivate people, how to encourage people, how to.
It's the bit you were missing, the practical and the human elements of the theoretical studies that you had.
Yeah. And also I realized there that people learn in different ways. And I took that with me in my career later. I stayed there for quite a bit of time, like maybe almost 2 years. I was really lucky because in Scotland we had and still have one of the best professionals in my perspective, sensory professionals in the world, John Thompson from Coffee Nexus. And I remember saving all of my money and I went to him in the same month in August and I did a foundation and an intermediate sensory course. And honestly, I get goosebumps when I remember that because it was the first time in my life that I felt that I was in a room with someone who knew more than me about coffee. And John is such a lovely, great human, and we got the opportunity to work later together. It was the first time that I had somebody who really knew what they were doing, showing me how to taste. We went through the different basic tastes. We did a lot of exercises, and I was ready with questions. So I asked him a lot of questions that were beyond the curriculum, and he was so kind with his time and he answered all those questions. So I took those questions, I took all the theory, I took all the exercises that he told me. For the next 6 months, I dialed in so much. Like I would wake up every day. I would do sensory exercises, triangulation exercises at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning every day.
Can you explain to us what some of these exercises were, like the triangulation, like what they mean in practicality?
So triangulation exercises is the idea that you have 3 cups. In 2 cups, you put exactly the same coffee. In the other cup, you put a coffee that's slightly dissimilar. And obviously, how dissimilar it is, you decide. And the better you are, the more closer they will be. And then you have many of those sets. You mix them, so every set between them, and you try to find the odd one out. This is a very typical sensory exercise. Find the different one. And you can start by doing it. For example, you have a coffee, 2 cups from Brazil, chocolatey, very chocolatey and very caramelly and nutty. 1 cup from Ethiopia, very fruity. If you want to go deeper, you can do same country, Colombia, different regions. If you want to go even deeper, you can do same country, same region, different farms. And if you want to go really deep, you can do same everything, same farm, different plots of land. The better you get, the closer you get.
And this is one of the fundamental exercises in the queue, isn't it?
It's one of them, yes. There's also another set that my friends back then, I was actually that year, my friends all pulled in money together and they bought me this aroma smelling kit. It's called
Le Nez du Café.
Yes. So for those of you that you probably never heard this and you might be wondering what are we talking about, it's a set with 36 vials, really small, and every vial has inside a specific aroma. And these are aromas that you find in coffee, either good ones or bad ones. So you might have, for example, lemon or hazelnut or dark chocolate or caramel or toffee, but you might also have rubber or earth or potato, which are like more defects. And I remember, so you have these little vials. I remember every day I would take it with me to work. And on the bus back, I would be at the very back of the bus with a hoodie, big beard.
People would have thought you're sniffing glue.
I think so. I did that so many, like hundreds of times, I think.
Sniffing poppers on the bus.
Yeah. And I saw online on Instagram, the Specialty Coffee Association of the UK is having a call for judges. If you'd like to judge in the upcoming UK Barista Championship season or coffee season, you need to come to London. You need to have pay, I think, 50 pounds. It's 2 days of exams, basically. And if you went there and you pass those days, then they will allow you to be part of the judging panel for the UK. And it was the start of something really like a really beautiful chapter in my life, because I went there. The reason I wanted to go was it wasn't more. I didn't think I was good enough to judge, because I was this little, my own. I was a single person in Scotland. I had no benchmarks of where everybody else was, and I thought very naively in my mind back then that okay, everybody who's passionate does this. Everybody does all this research. Everybody goes through all the things I went through. There's probably a lot of people that they were far far better than me in this, and they were. Don't get me wrong at the time, but I thought I wasn't, good enough. It was more like to benchmark. And to my surprise, they said to me, yes, congratulations, you've passed. If you want, you can come and judge in this year's competitions.
So do you remember who the winner was that year?
To be honest, it's a bit blurry in my head.
I can look it up, actually.
Yeah.
Shall I look it up?
I think check,
Let's look up UK Barista Champion 2015. Shall I look?
maybe check 2016.
Here we go. Dan Fellows.
Was it Dan Fellows?
It was Dan Fellows,
Nice.
who works for Slayer now, right?
Yes, Dan Fellows.
I think, yeah.
Yes, great guy.
Yeah, lovely guy.
He
lovely
did
guy.
so well.
Yeah, really, really, really good guy.
I thought it was
Wow,
Joshua
was that
Darlow.
2016?
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
He then went, of course, won back-to-back Coffee and Good Spirit in the Worlds.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. If you want to be a really good professional taster, it doesn't matter whether it's chocolate, whether it's wine, whether it's coffee. Tasting with people who are better than you is by far the fastest route to get there. From nothing, not from nothing, but from like doing local. Then the next year, I did so many different countries. I met so many interesting people. I tasted so many amazing coffees. Yeah, it was great. And then I never stopped. I think judging is one of those things
I'm curious, at what point did the Q come into your training? Was it before this? Was it after this?
It was after this.
It was after.
So,
and can we just explain to listeners what is a Q grader?
So a Q graders is a professional qualification in coffee for tasting. It's changing a little bit now.
I was going to ask you because it's just merged with the CQI, hasn't it? And they're doing what's it, a coffee value assessment framework.
Yes. So maybe let's talk about historically what it was, and then we can also get into what it's going to be.
Exactly.
Back when I did it, there was maybe 3,000 of us in the world. Now there's maybe 7 or 8. But historically, what it was is a course where you go and you sit exams over 5 days. And basically, once you're done with it, and it's quite draining and intense, it does give you the ability to then not dictate, but assign value to coffee beans. So let's say you're a producer from Brazil, you just produce this coffee, and you try to understand how much you should sell this coffee for. The whole notion of specialty coffee is that we have commodity grade coffee, which is coffee that is replaceable. The same with that, if you and I go and buy rice from the shop, specialty coffee is the idea that, okay, if you have something that is more tasty, you should get paid more for it. So the higher you go on that scale, the more unique the coffees become, the more rare they become.
The higher the price.
And the higher the price. And a Q grader is essentially the person who is able to assign a score from 0 to 100. If the coffee scores more than 80 points, then it's deemed specialty. And obviously, the higher the score, the more unique the coffee will be. And also, for the audience to give context, like to find a coffee that is 90 points is probably in the 1%. It's less than 1% of the world's production every year.
And now it was only this year that the CQI and SCA have developed this new coffee value assessment framework. Are you up to date on that yet or not?
Yes, I am.
So what's that going to do? Is that suddenly wipe out the value of a Q? Does it mean you've got to re-exam? What does it mean? Do they convert it? Can you just convert from one to the other?
So the CQI, the Coffee Quality Institute, was a standalone organization that has been running for many years. And one of their main assets was the Q grader system. The Specialty Coffee Association is another organization. It's another standalone organization that is far bigger than the CQI in terms of financial capacity, in terms of reach. The CQI was getting significant funds, was receiving significant funds from USAID to be sustained. If I understand this correctly myself, it seems like then the SCA came to an agreement with the CQI because the CQI...
It was the only way to survive.
Yes. And essentially, they agreed to for the CQI to be moved into the SCA curriculum of education and for the SCA to essentially run it.
I was going to say, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it indifferent? Is it...
I think it depends who you ask. That would be my honest answer.
Tell me something I'd like to ask you to explain, because you use the word sensory evaluation a lot. What is a sensory evaluation?
So sensory evaluation is basically the science of us understanding a food product and breaking it down to its core components. So core components usually, for most food products, they break down to certain categories. So we have the basic tastes. So those will be acidity, sweetness, bitterness, savoriness, and umami, and which you find in almost every food category. If not all of them, most of them. Then you have things like flavor. How many flavors you have in something? You have acidity, bitterness,
I'm guessing aromas as well.
aroma as well, and that is split into like fragrance and aroma. We have aftertaste, the taste that stays in your mouth after you have consumed the product, and so forth and so forth. So, the idea of like professional tasters is you break those elements on a food product at a very basic level, and you evaluate those, you evaluate those in terms of complexity and intensity.
And Q graders, I'm guessing basically you what you do is you train yourself so much that you essentially have kind of like a library in your head. So when you taste something, you can already allocate it into certain categories.
Yes. So in my perspective, to be a very, very good taster, you need reference points. Like try to hear other professionals, like wine, for example, which I'm not like that well versed. And when you listen to somebody in wine speaking about the wine, you might say, "That's a bit of an arrogant, person just speaking. It doesn't make a lot of sense." No, it's because they've tried so many things of that one thing that they can differentiate them.
And tell me about what are some common misconceptions about taste? People, general public might think they know or they might get wrong, like just common.
Um, we'll say that it's easier to be a good taster than you think. It's just being a little bit mindful. But also, I feel that, you know, basically, what is this? This is a hobby, right? Like, it's a hobby of me liking to do this.
Well, for some it's a hobby, for others it's a living.
But I mean, it starts as a passion.
Yeah.
My point here is that don't let people kind of intimidate you. Like, it's okay not to know.
I think that's amazing. You see our Instagram. I do a lot of videos. It was it 2 weeks ago or last week? I made a point about snobbery in specialty coffee, and I recorded this video to say that look, there is a lot of snobbery in specialty coffee. It does exist, and there are people like me who's a geek, and you're even more of a geek than I am. However, we will never impose this on people. If someone walks into our shop and doesn't understand anything about coffee, just says, "Look, I just want a white coffee," I will make them a white coffee. And I think that's really important because it's quite easy to get lost in this kind of
I find it fascinating specifically about this, Dorian, because, I think in life it's good to be empathetic. And I think it's good to be able to not try to impose your beliefs or your way of doing things. When people, especially in our shops, they come in, different people come for different reasons, but they all come to have a good time. And I think we owe it to them to be able to, serve them in a courteous way to the point that they want to be served. Most people, yeah, they want and decent coffee. They will recognize, you know what? Most people will recognize that, for example, Tamp's coffee is better than the next door. I don't understand why, but it's better. Like, they have that degree of separation, which is great. Now, if somebody really wants to learn more,
they can ask.
they will let you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to segue into what do you think the future is, not just for specialty coffee, but for specialty coffee shops? Because it's proving to be a really difficult time right now.
Yeah. So that's an interesting question, which I had this view from very early on, maybe from like 10, 12 years ago. My view from very early on was that the coffee shops of the future will be basically, I used to say the barista of the future will be someone who will not touch an espresso machine. The barista of the future will sit behind a screen and it will change variables. That's what I used to think. Obviously, my perspective has shifted slightly, but I do believe that automation will be more and more prevalent in our lives. Things will be done in a more automated way. The late 2010s, I feel that we started having this automation, but it wasn't done potentially exceptionally well, right? So people were skeptical. Oh, we're losing quality here. It's not as good. Batch brewers used to be like really bad, for example.
Well, the automatic steam ones,
But now, yeah, we now have things like automatic tampers,
Yeah.
like pack press. We have
steamed milk dispensers.
steam, yeah, milk that gets depend not equally better than baristas, unless you have somebody who is work class, a lot of those steam ones, they do a great, like more consistent. Like that's the truth.
Which steam ones are you thinking about now? The best.
So there's many different ways, right? Like you have even from like some that they are part of the machine. For example,
Yeah.
the VAs have some great. They're like almost auto steamers. You have
And the Eversys has got that as well.
the Eversys. You have the the Stag is called the one that it goes in.
Yeah, the Moose.
The Moose.
Yeah.
You obviously have the how you call
The Wally.
the
Wally.
Wally.
You got the Uber Milk.
The Uber Milk. Yeah, my point is there's automation is here and it's here to help us, like in every aspect of our lives. What does that mean for coffee shops? Two things. It means that we can deploy our resources more efficiently, but it also means that we can focus on what matters, which is people. And hospitality, I think, is something that we can never be good enough.
I would say I tend to agree with you. I'm someone who tends to. I have mixed feelings about automation. I'd like to embrace it, but what I feel I've been burnt a couple of times by embracing it when it was too soon and it wasn't ready, and then I get burnt. So
Yeah.
I'm not against automation per se. I just want to wait until it's been perfected before embracing it.
Do you find that also customers maybe sometimes they're a bit skeptical when it becomes too fast, too automated, too
No, I've thought about that. It's the question. I mean, the obvious example to give: would I put an Eversys in here?
which I never see is a machine that essentially does everything on its own really fast.
Yeah. Do I want to put an Eversys in here? Yeah. So many times I want to put one in here, but I think it would backfire because I think the customers who come here, they want, as you said, they experience the theater. Having a beautiful La Marzocco coffee machine with beautiful grinders and they want that. I think if I took that away, I think I would be taking away part of the experience here.
I feel that the context matters a lot. Like in a coffee shop to coffee shop, it can be different. So certainly, there's a theatrical side to making coffee. Grind the coffee that's ground or to order. The barista looking the portafilter, texturing the milk, pouring. It's almost like a small ritual. But I feel context matters. So I was chatting with another business owner, a friend of mine. He has a couple of bakeries here in London. And he told me, look, I went to another coffee shop, Roslyn, which for those of you that might not know, Roslyn they have multiple sites in London, and they do a ridiculous amount of coffees every day. They do like every shop hits more than 1,000 cups a day. And he went there and he saw that they had an Uber milk. So he thought, okay, I will get an Uber milk for my shop. His shop is in, I believe, Holborn, but it's not that busy, like comparatively to 1,500 cups a day. So he said, you know what was interesting? I had to sell it actually. After a bit of time, I had to sell it. I said, why? Because it seemed to me that people, when they go to a really busy shop like Roslyn, they understand why that machine is there. And they're happy with it. They accept the fact that it's part of the workflow, and because look, there's a queue out of the door and people are busy. But in my shop, he said, it was too fast. The person will come in, it would be and then actually we started losing.
It would make them question it.
Yes. Yeah. So that's interesting as well.
So it's almost as if even if we as operators are ready to embrace technology, the question is, are our customers?
Potentially, yes.
Now I'm going to ask you some kind of quick fire questions. What's the most memorable coffee you've ever had?
The most memorable coffee I ever had was at a friend's coffee shop in Cyprus. It's called Coffee Project. The owner, Christos and Maria, I remember when I was one of my first years in coffee, I went to their shop. Christos was behind the bar. They have a beautiful slayer, and it was a natural Ethiopian Rocco mountain that he put on the slayer for like 40 seconds.
Pulling his espresso.
Yes.
Wow.
It was fantastic. It's one of those things that they stayed with me over the years.
I'll tell you what mine is. I know you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you.
Oh, please do.
It was actually a coffee that you sourced and roasted. And you know what I'm going to say.
It's the Claudia Ribeiro.
Yeah. Man, it just stayed recorded in my memory forever. And I remember, I think I tried that before I knew that you sourced and roasted it. And that coffee is just, I don't know, some coffees just tattooed in your brain. That's one of them for me. What's the most overrated trend in coffee right now?
The most overrated trend. Oh, this is meant to be quick fire.
That's all right.
I'll say, a lot of there's a lot of tools out there at the moment. People like use a million different tools to prepare their packs. I think some of them we could potentially do without.
Less is more.
Less is more sometimes.
How can Joe Public tell if a coffee is truly high quality?
So in terms of high quality, in terms of like the green coffee or like the execution.
No, roasted. Well, yeah, a high quality coffee obviously comes from a high quality green, which has been roasted well.
So assuming that the coffee has been roasted well,
Yes.
then I would say look for like more flavor, more complexity,
Maybe combination of flavors.
combination of flavors. But at the end of the day, like honestly, my opinion is taste something. Do you like it? Great. You don't have to move to look too much further,
It's about what you like.
Yeah.
And about you personally, what's next for you in coffee? Because you're kind of at the top of your game in the coffee world. So what's next? What's your next challenge or your next target?
I think there's a lot more to go. There's a more to learn, more to do. So we're putting a lot of focus now with Formative, the roastery. So
Let's give a shout out to Ian and Maya.
to Ian and Maya for being amazing partners in crime. As you know, I have my own business, which is CoffeeReps. It is a very high-end, intimate service of roasting beans specifically for businesses, and we work very closely with amazing professionals like yourself. But we also have Formative, which is a roaster which is its own brand instead of like designing brands for others. Ian, my business partner, he's an exceptional professional who competes every year. He's last current Irish barista champion, and 2 years ago he was the UK barista champion. He will be competing again, so I'm really looking forward to support him and hopefully see him. The dream is to win the world championship, which is extremely difficult to do. But yeah, in the next few months, these two things are the ones that we're kind of putting our efforts into.
And where can any viewers or listeners find you, Nicolas? Find you or your coffee or your training or your socials or your website? List them so people can find you.
So
The coffee they can buy here.
Yes. So CoffeeReps is on Instagram, is my personal Instagram, which ended up becoming my job.
Yeah.
And also the Formative website. There's a lot of interesting coffees there that they change.
So your coffees are available right now via Formative and via Tamp. Those are the two.
In London, there's a few more.
If people wanted to get you for training, how can they find you?
Feel free to email us at info@coffeereps.me, M-E, and those emails will be directed to me.
Guys, he's some of the best there is. Thank you, Nicolas.
Dorian, it's been a pleasure
Thank
as
you very
always.
much.
Let's do this again sometime
Absolutely.
after you hit 1 million subscribers.
Yeah. If you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel.